I think AI is the biggest opportunity that mortgage brokers have had in the last 20 years. I believe 90% of what we do, AI can do. But I also believe the 90% that we do, AI can do better. It's very important that we don't expose customer information to LLMs. I can have a conversation with a client, and on the back of the conversation, I get a fact find comes out from the other side.
For the first time I saw you at TMA conference.
Correct, yeah.
We had a chat last week about how the role of AI in your business, because you identified an opportunity, didn't you? And then you went off to the regulator and you said, I want to do this. So how did the regulator react when you said you wanted to do your business?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting because AI was quite new at the time, because we spoke to the regulator about 1.5, 2 years ago. So that was some time ago. Obviously, we used some consultants as well while we did that. The regulator's take, based on what I understood, is they wanted the advice to come from the advisor. So they didn't mind you using the technology, because that's what AI does, but the advice has to come from the advisor, because that was a clear message I was getting from them. Of course, they were concerned about things like GDPR, because we had to make sure that we comply with those regulations, and the data protection. And the important thing was the customer outcome, that they get the right outcome that they are supposed to get. That was the most important thing. So yes, so they are still very much wanting the advice to come from the advisor. That's the key thing.
That's the key thing. So is AI a threat to brokers, or is it a value add?
I think AI is the biggest opportunity that mortgage brokers have had in the last 20 years. I strongly believe in that. I'll give you some examples as well. So AI is, again, like I'm touching on that previous thing. AI is not here to take away advisors, for sure. AI is here for that mundane task, to take those away. Take away your repetitive admin stuff, take away those letters that you have to write, and to take away analyzing those data, right? Because things like bank statements and things like that, that's a lot, right? So those things I think AI can do better. So again, I'll give an example of how we work today. 1.5 years ago, I'm part of TMA, so Neil knows this. We had 3 advisors 1.5 years ago. Today we have 16 advisors, and that's growing as well. But the important thing here is, when we had 3 advisors, we had 7 admin staff. And today we have 15 advisors, and we have 5 admin staff. So if you look at the ratios, that has come down quite a lot, the amount of admin staff that we require. And that's mainly because of AI. I'll also give another quick story. I met this lady at one of the events last year in October. And I had a conversation like this. She said, you need to help me. And I was coming for the TMA conference. So on my way to the TMA conference, I met her. I told her before I went to see her, can you give me your process map? Because I want to look at your process map. Because she said she has a lot of problems with the processors. So when I walked into the room, I saw posters all over the room. It's flip charts, right? She'd written everything down and she put all over the room. And I asked her, what is this? She said, you wanted the process maps, right? So I have drawn the process map. And that was supposed to be hours meeting. And I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to finish this in an hour, right? But it's funny because 90% of what she had put down, AI can do it, right? Of course, we still have to remember we are the advisor. We are responsible for that advice, right? But 90% of that, I was surprised myself, right? AI could do it better. So again, we've sort of progressed from that point as well. With her, again, she's had 5 admin staff. Now she's down to 2 because AI has helped her. So it is doing some changes to the organizations.
So what is that 9-10 process that you've got in line?
Yeah, it's one of my things that I strongly believe in. That's me. Right? But I like to challenge myself, right? So if you take, I'm sure you learned this in school, 80-20, Pareto ratios or Pareto analysis. 80% of the work can be sort of outsourced to AI. but I've sort of pushed. People who work with me know I always try to push those boundaries, right? I believe 90% of what we do, AI can do. But I also believe the 90% that we do, AI can do better. That's what I believe in. But again, very, very clearly, I'm talking about the admin side of stuff, right? It is definitely not your advising. People come to you for that comfort, right? Because I was listening earlier as well, this is the same message everybody's giving. Because they come to you for the advice. And that's what mortgage brokers do. They give advice, they hold the hands through the journeys, and that support, that's not coming from AI. That has to be the advisor. So that 10% is unique. That's what makes us human, right? So that's why we are here as advisors, and that's the 10%. So don't try to outsource that 10%. 90%, yes, I strongly believe you can get AI to do better. But of course, it's a pursuit, it's a journey that we are working towards, right? So that's what I believe in.
So any person in the room hasn't done anything with AI yet, what do they should do after they leave here for, let's say by week tomorrow?
Yeah, okay. So I purposely picked up this book when I came today. I think take a week and write down your objectives. When I say your objectives, what you want to achieve, let's leave it very simple. In the next 5 years, in the next 2 years, and the next 1 year, what you want to achieve. So put that down first. Just write it in the book. The next thing you need to do is put down your frustrations that you have in your operations. Is it like bank statements? They're taking a lot of your time. So put that down. Whatever the frustrations you have, just put that down. And also put down the stuff that is repetitive, because AI is the one, it's good at taking away those repetitive tasks. So put all those things down in this book. And at the end of the week, right, but do this, right, because otherwise you're not getting anywhere. At the end of the week, please invest about £20. You might already have this. Use a tool like ChatGPT projects. Or if you're using Gemini, you have gems, right? So you can use one of them and put down your objectives and say, look, this is what I want to achieve and these are my frustrations. Come up with a plan. It will assist you with coming up for a plan for the next year, right up to next 5 years. And today, I have created something called an AI thought partner. I talk to my AI thought partner every single day. Even if I come for an event like this, I discuss it with my AI thought partner because it tells me what I'm supposed to do every single day. Of course, it's AI. It can be generic at times. I keep challenging it. It challenges me back as well. But together, I do have 2 other business partners, but I do have AI business partner as well, right? So I think that's probably the best place to start. Once your objectives are very clear, then you can work on tools, right? Because don't start with tools. A lot of people say, okay, tell me what tools do I need. That's the wrong place to start. Always start with those objectives, right? Because then you can go down to the tools.
As an AI partner, I just think that's my wife. She keeps telling me what I should be doing every day. So, apart from Mortgage X, what 3 AI tools do you think the guys should be
Yeah, so I think you need to invest mainly on a LLM, like I mentioned before. Like I said, don't go for the basic version. It's very generic. And if you want it to be a little bit more secure, you just need to go for a pro version. Because the thing I mentioned earlier about projects, or if you're using something like Google, you have Gemini, Gems, right? So all of those are not available for free, right? So you have to have the paid version. So go for that, right? So you need one LLM. I also use something called Perplexity because I do a lot of research, right? You don't need all 3 of them, but select one of them. So, because that definitely helps you. ChatGPT is good for generic stuff, but for me, the strongest tool among those 3 is Gemini, because it's based on the Google ecosystem. The Google ecosystem has Gmail, it has things like Sheets, it also has Nano Banana, it has so many other things attached to that, right? So I will give you an example. If I get a lead overnight that comes through my website, today the first thing that happens is it goes to a Google Sheet, and through my Gmail account, I use a Gmail Business Suite. They get an email saying, thank you for the inquiry. If somebody has referred it, they get an email as well. Now I'm not involved. But in the morning, the AI agent will call, right? So I have an AI agent who calls the customer to qualify that customer. It'll call. So it's not expensive, those tools. So you can So my AI agent will ask some questions, avoiding you having to ask those questions, because we know all leads don't qualify, right? You don't want to waste your time. So the AI agent calls, and if they think they're fit enough for me to work with, they book an appointment in my diary. And that's when I get involved. So Google helps you with this entire system, right? So that's why I think that's a very powerful tool. I also use two other tools. That's the LLM. I use a tool for my emails, right? I believe emails is a big waste of time, right? Obviously, we have to go through emails. I used to spend about 2 hours going through my emails every single day because I get few hundred emails that come through. But today, 80% of my emails, AI has already answered it. And I only have 20% to deal with. And that too, it drafts those emails for me because there are tools which help you train that. So it looks at your old emails, and also it looks at inbuilt sort of LLM, which doesn't expose it to any outside party, and it drafts a response. So if I'm happy with the response, I need to just press the send button. Of course, I'm an advisor again, right? I need to make sure that if something is of advice nature, it doesn't respond to that customer. But AI sorts that out for me. So that takes about 10 minutes. Now, I've suddenly found about 2 hours back in my life, right? So that's what AI is doing. And the third tool I would use is, there are like a video calling sort of platforms built for mortgage brokers. So I can have a conversation with the client, and on the back of the conversation, I get a fact find comes out from the other side, right? So there are tools like that I use. These are, again, not very expensive. It's very cheap. I mean, all these tools cost about £20 each, right? So those are the tools I mainly use.
And in your process, what's the biggest compliance and data risk that you experience?
So it's very important that we don't expose customer information to LLMs, right? So this is something that you have to be very mindful, because this is echoing from those conversations with FCA. I've heard brokers telling me that they put bank statements onto LLM, right, to ChatGPT, and it analyzes it for them, right? Please don't do that, right? So you have to be very careful with that. So what I do is, I've created my own LLM, right? I mean, it sounds big, but it's not, right? Because it's like pre-built LLMs which you can use, which doesn't expose you to anything. So that sort of prevents the information going outside, and it's retained within the organization itself. Now that helps a lot, right? So that helps you from not exposing this information outside. Of course, data security, you have to be very mindful. There are things like AWS, like Amazon Warehouse. I mean, again, I don't want to get too technical. I'm not a techie, right, by the way, right? If I can do it, I'm sure everyone here can do this as well, right? I used to be scared of tech, right? So these things help you to maintain that details.
And last question for the session. What do you think will happen to brokers who don't embrace AI over the next few years?
I think this space is moving very, very fast. So again, okay, I'll go back to my example. My son, he's 16. He says he wants to be a mortgage broker. In 3 years' time, he's going to be a mortgage broker, let's say. So he's used to talking to Alexa. He's used to talking to Siri. He gets answers from ChatGPT. So he's a native AI user. So they are going to come to this space. So he will always look for shortcuts, right? How to do things faster, how to do things better, because that's the way he's brought up. That's the way he's used to. So if we don't do anything, those guys will start taking over some of the stuff, because the process will get slicker. It'll be easier because that's what they want. And it's not only the brokers who come through, but it's also our customers. Today, everybody likes convenience. So they are so used to having everything easy. They just take an app and do it. We don't even log into the bank account through a computer anymore. We just do it on an app, right? So people are so used to that. So when they come to the broker space, they'll expect that to happen in the next few years. But if you are not doing it, there'll be another broker. It's a bit like me telling, okay, are you still filling a paper fact find, right? I think most of you are not doing that today. So that's that. But I think the biggest opportunity for me, right? I mean, I'm just telling you because I've got tracks and I do this every day. Last month, my biggest referrer actually wasn't my clients. So I used to get referrals from my clients, which is of course good. You know that referrals from clients usually convert much more, right? Because they've already done the sale for you before it comes. But my biggest referrer was ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. They were my biggest referrers. Because today there's an opportunity that's out there where LLMs recommend saying, okay, so we are based in Borehamwood, our offices. So if you type on Gemini saying, who's the best mortgage broker in Borehamwood, our name comes up, right? Because obviously we got reviews and things like that. So with those things, there are referrals that we get from those platforms. But people blindly trust them, like ChatGPT, Perplexity. They trust it, right? So that's why it comes through. So I think it's gone are the days that it'll be gone are the days that you can just rely on Tom, Dick, and Sally to sort of refer customers to you. It's going to be AI who's going to be referring to the customers, and they're not going to tell you, these are the 10 brokers in the area. They're going to tell you these guys sound the best in that area, and this is the reason why they sound best. So I think that's something that all of you have to work on. And also remember these days, like, because these LLM platforms are new, all these things are free, right? But it's not going to be free for too long, right? When Meta started, or Facebook, advertisements were free. When Google started, advertisements were free. But very soon, these people, I think OpenAI has already started charging for advertisements, but very soon, it's going to change, right? So it's an opportunity for you. But in 3 years' time, I think that's going to be a big referral source for a lot of people. So I think everybody needs to start working on those things now. I have, and I'm seeing the results. In the month of January, we had 20 new applications which came from these sources, right? That's how much of an impact that it can make, right? So, yeah.
On that note, please wait to go for the habit and project.